You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Bitcoin, Ether, Ripple, Litecoin, and more. Cryptocurrencies and other digital assets are taking the financial world by storm. This exploding market provides everything a savvy trader needs: volatility, volume, and liquidity. Provided you know how to find it. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Crypto Rundown. Each week, we'll break down the latest trading activity, trends, and developments on everything from coins to tokens, futures, and even OTC options. If it's moving the crypto markets, then you'll find it on the Crypto Rundown. Now it's time to dive into the exploding world of cryptocurrencies and digital assets. It's time for the Crypto Rundown.
All right, everybody. That music means it is Monday. It is 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. Yes, it is time for the Crypto Rundown, the program where we break down everything going on the other side of the derivative space. We're going to talk the vol, the volume, the skew, all that good stuff, but in the Bitcoin options and ETH and all that other fun stuff. A lot popping off over there, so it should be fun. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from this fine network upon which you're listening to this program right now. Glad to see so many of you continuing to discover this program from the crypto world and in turn discover our network as a result. Some of you maybe learn about options for the first time, so we're happy to walk you through that process before you get into the deep end of programs like volatility views and all the other fun stuff we have there on the network. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to the full network, around a dozen or so programs for you guys to sink your teeth into there on the network. Option Block, Vol Views, The Advisors, Option Twifo. There's so many. So a lot for you guys to enjoy. OPR, Bootcamp, you name it out there. So we'll keep you busy. We'll keep you informed, hopefully enlightened and or entertained out there in these crazy, troubled, turbulent times. If you like what you're listening to, keep those reviews coming. They help the influx of new people continue to discover the network. We see the folks coming in. We see the numbers every month, and these are crazy times for everybody, crazy times for the network as well. So keep those folks coming. Leave a review wherever you listen to this fine program. And of course, keep those questions coming. We do love to hear from you guys. And let's hear from some other folks in the space as well. Without further ado, it's time to roll out the Crypto Hot Seat.
Forget about cold storage. It's time to turn up the heat on thought leaders from the world of cryptocurrencies and digital assets. It's time to take their place on the Crypto Hot Seat.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Crypto Hot Seat. This is the portion of the program where we welcome on guests from throughout the world, crypto derivatives and indeed beyond, and proceed to pick their brains for the benefit of you, the listener out there. And our next guest is an old friend of the network, even though he hasn't been on in a little while. He's worn many hats. He started many years ago as actually my co-host on Trading Tech Talk when he was back. He was the CTO over there at the International Securities Exchange. He then moved on to BATS, which of course then became part of the grand, ever-growing, ever-expanding SIBO empire. Of course, he spent some time there before his most recent appearance. He was part of Alpha Point, having jumped into the crypto space, and now wearing yet another hat again. So I'm pleased to welcome on our old friend, Mr. KAPIL RATHI, now the co-founder and indeed CEO over there at CrossTower Crypto Exchange. Mr. RATHI, welcome back to the program and indeed to the network, sir. It has been too long.
Thank you, Mark. How are you? Hope all is well. It's been a while.
It has been quite some time, sir. I think our last chat was actually about exactly a year ago. It was June of last year on this very program. So obviously a lot has unfolded since then. The world has pretty much fallen apart. And then maybe getting somehow back together, maybe not so much, I guess, depending on your point of view out there. But catch us up. The last time we chatted with you, like you said, you were at Alpha Point. Now you have since then launched this new entity. So catch us up. What the heck is CrossTower? What are you guys doing?
All right. Yeah. Thank you for inviting me. And just before I jump into CrossTower, once again, big fan. So thank you for distilling all the options market summary for us. You're still my favorite drive time show.
Someone's got to do it, right?
I'm no longer able to keep up with what's happening in my old world of options, given I have to now keep up with this exciting new asset class that we're jumping in, and we are really excited about bringing CrossTower. CrossTower is a digital asset trading platform. Today we are offering exchange services in 9 top digital assets, cryptocurrencies. We're basically bringing this platform with a clear mission to help grow this new asset class. I think there is so much potential in this new asset class. There's a lot of excitement, but we still are finding institutions and other investors that you and I have been part of the community. They're still waiting on the sideline, and our mission here is to help those institutions, help those sophisticated individual investors, and come join this asset class. There's a lot going on, of course. What we're trying to do here is essentially provide an experience that our traditional asset class market makers or individual investors or institutions, they are used to seeing really amazing, sophisticated exchange services. And I think there is some room for a exchange that can cater to that community. We want to provide them similar experience, whether it comes to technology, whether it comes to risk, whether it comes to cost, service. We want to really offer one of the best-in-class exchange that, as you know, I have been lucky in building some of those exchanges in my past life.
You've been at a few exchanges over the years. I just named 3 off the top of my head. I'm sure probably a few more mixed in over there. We'll get to all the madness unfolding in the crypto exchange space in a second, because there is a lot to unpack there. But catch us up on the offering itself. If I come to CrossTower right now and I want to trade products, what can I trade? Is it just Bitcoin spot? Is it ETH? Are there derivatives? What are we looking at here?
So today we are offering spot exchange services in top 9 cryptos, Bitcoin, ETH, Litecoin, BCH, and as you can imagine, top 9. You can go to crosstower.com and just register by putting very minimal information, and you can see the platform without actually depositing or starting trading. The platform, our goal is to expand from here. Of course, this is literally, I think, week 4 or 5 of us going live. We've been working on it for the past year, building under the stealth mode, and we went live a few weeks ago, and we plan to grow pretty dramatically from here. Eventually, as you can imagine, offering different asset classes under the same umbrella, being like other exchanges like CBOE or NASDAQ, for example. You can trade spot, you can trade derivatives, you can trade options, futures within those derivatives. We're going to take the same route. We plan to offer different type of offerings on crypto to begin with, and down the road, we're taking a multi-asset approach. So a lot more to come.
Let's get into that a little bit. I've lost track of the number of guests we've had on this program who hang their hat in some aspect of the exchange space on crypto. They are legion. I think to call this space crowded is an understatement of epic proportions. And yet you, KAPIL, you looked at this space and you said, you know what? I think there's room for one more out there. So what was it that caused you to make that leap some might view as mad, sir, into this extremely crowded crypto, quote-unquote, exchange space. What do you think you guys are really doing that's going to set CrossTower apart from the rest, sir?
Yes, that's an interesting question. I think the field is definitely getting crowded. However, if I go back to my early days of electronic trading, moving from floor business to electronic trading, how ISC sort of revolutionized the electronic options trading. And then down the road, we had other exchanges. I was part of a very successful exchange at BAKKT. I think there is always room to improve. The way we see this is, and I'm sure you and your listener have heard, we are in, I would say, second inning of .com revolution. The first inning happened, the euphoria kicked in, and then there was a huge cycle of correction. I think a lot of technologists and crypto enthusiasts were part of that early cycle. The capital market experience, the market structure development, I think there is a lot more that can be done in this asset class. So I think my favorite thought process here is that Google was not the first search engine. Facebook was not the first social media service company. But there is now you're seeing a lot of Wall Street exchange experience coming into this space. So with us, we are finding the gaps that are left by some of the traditional players, and we plan to close those gaps, whether it's with the better technology, whether it's better market structure development, whether it's with the kind of respecting regulation. I think there is a lot more that can be done. We are still in first inning. So jury is still out who's going to make it, who's not going to make it. But as long as the industry is growing, and it's literally, again, back in 04, 05, how options industry was growing. There were new exchanges coming every other year, but the pie is, we all have to focus on growth of this pie. It's too early to talk about competition.
Sounds like someone's quoting my old buddy there, Mr. Gary Katz, your former CEO over there at ISC. He liked to talk about growing the pie over there as well, and grow it. Indeed, he did over there. But you make an interesting point. You know, we have seen a lot of people come on and speak about that because, to use your metaphor there, your baseball metaphor, the first inning or so of a lot of these crypto venues came mostly from the crypto side of the space, where they looked at it through that lens and through the crypto revolution that it was hoping to foster out there, and not so much from a capital markets perspective. So they didn't have a lot of a handle really on the infrastructure and how the game is really played in these marketplaces in terms of fostering liquidity and finding order providers and regulation, all the other things you kind of just mentioned out there. And now we're seeing this second wave of people coming from the capital market space and looking to the crypto space and saying, hey, you know, there's opportunity here to improve on this, improve on that, because you're right. We've heard from a lot of people playing on the institutional side of the space that there still is a lot of room to go to lure in the size funds who want to do 10,000 at a clip and who don't want to deal with the hassle of wallets and all the other infrastructure plumbing that still needs an overhaul, a massive overhaul there in the crypto space. So it sounds like, Kapil, that's where you see your value added in the crowded crypto exchange spaces. You have the institutional expertise from the other markets, and you're trying to bring that and apply that to crypto. Is that a fair synopsis, sir?
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting. I was having a discussion with our investor, and we both pretty much come from the same mindset that you have to be strategic about getting into a new asset class, both as an investor as well as like an operator. Of course, our team is putting their livelihood, their time into this asset class. There is an early stage to jump into a new venture, new asset, or there is a right timing. I think the correction that we have gone through, the institutional inflow we are seeing, you're seeing a lot of media news coming out of Fidelity, PwC, Paul Tudor Jones, Renaissance. So it is very obvious that crypto is ready to become a mainstream asset class. So I think you have to be very strategic about timing your involvement into a new venture. And we were very lucky that we caught this wave, and we are coming in at a really opportune time. Our launch has been really successful. Past couple of weeks, we're seeing a lot of activity on our book. So couldn't be more pleased in terms of the timing. It's not too early. It's not too late.
You know, one of the things that has always fascinated and or infuriated me about the crypto space is the, shall we say, the somewhat loose definition of what a quote-unquote exchange really is in the crypto space. And in the world you came from, you know, the ISE, the options, the world, there were very clearly delineated roles for these ventures. Now, they have blurred a little bit, you know, exchanges going public over the last decade that has blurred the lines a little bit, but they still are essentially places where you go to aggregate and source liquidity. That's kind of the main function of an exchange. At the end of the day, there still is that kind of core public utility function of being a place where liquidity gets aggregated and sourced out there. But in the crypto world now, that's one of the functions. Maybe some might argue it's the least important function of a lot of these quote-unquote exchanges, because they're also out there functioning effectively as a broker. You have to build a front end. You have to go out and acquire customers. You have to drive them to the products that you're listing on your venue. You have to give them the service that they demand from a broker. They have to have all the GUI expectations of the spreads and everything else you need to do. There's a lot that's baked into that. It's not just make a venue, source liquidity, and sell a market data feed. There's a heck of a lot more to it than that. What's been your take coming from the more traditional world of finance and seeing how those exchanges function in a very highly regulated role to now this very kind of fast and loose crypto exchange world where you're kind of doing all things at once, Kapil?
That is a really spot-on observation. When I moved into sort of crypto exchange side after spending almost 15 plus years in regulated securities market, my jaw was on the floor. It's like, wow, you have a broker who's servicing retail client, you have the matching, order matching function, and even part clearing, of course, on blockchain. You don't need traditional clearing services, but there is definitely sort of settlement process that's performed by these exchanges. So that is absolutely an interesting sort of dynamic that crypto exchanges are offering a much vertical model than some of the traditional asset exchanges. However, with that said, I think I'm thrilled to see Fidelity, TD Ameritrade, E-Trade, Schwab now looking into, and Robinhood looking into offering crypto as a service. So there is definitely, of course, they have a lot more experience in servicing retail customers than compared to some of the exchanges. I think the ecosystem will find its balance. I don't think this vertical model will stay forever. Somewhere we have to bring the entire infrastructure, not necessarily all the players, because at the end of the day, I think the technology, underlying technology, behind crypto and Bitcoin is kind of disintermediate some of these intermediaries. So we may not have all 9-10 players to complete the trade cycle. By the time you press buy, sell button, and by the time it gets clear, it goes through multiple hops in traditional asset classes. Here in crypto, it will probably go through 2-3 hops, but we kind of finding that balance. And I think bringing traditional discount brokers, electronic brokers, order routers is going to happen, and it's going to actually help grow this industry.
Is that an intriguing prospect for you, at least in the near term, until this vertical model shakes out a little bit? Is it intriguing for you to have to effectively build a broker as well? Is that a fun new challenge, or is that maybe somewhat a little bit daunting coming from the traditional exchange world?
There's definitely a lot to learn for me personally. I think as a securities exchange, you don't necessarily perform KYC on your individual investors. So we are doing a lot more than a traditional exchange would do. But I think it's exciting. It actually helps us connect with the end customer much closely, and for us to be able to educate that end customer, for us to be able to bring new products and consult with them. I think the barriers are sort of kind of lower here. On the other hand, I think we have to make sure that we are focused. We definitely, like, our mission is to mainstream this asset class. Making it mainstream means bringing new products, whether it's index products, ETF products, or similar type of trading products. It will expedite and sort of speed up innovation. So we don't necessarily have to work with 5 different type of players to bring a specific product to the fund, to the sort of end customer. It's more exciting. It's definitely daunting, but there is a lot more excitement in this space.
Well, you mentioned early on your investor. You guys just announcing actually this morning a $6 million seed round you guys just closed out there. So walk us through what's the plan for the funds. What can we look forward to here in terms of, hey, maybe since we're talking looking forward, we know obviously you like a little bit of options here. Maybe is options going to be baked into that $6 million, Kapil, or is that a little bit farther down the road?
Definitely, I would say it's pretty close. I think natural growth that we have seen in derivatives, especially in options. My own background throughout my life, I have been part of options community. I am really excited to bring some of those products, probably much better than what's out there today. And I think, again, we're taking a much bigger picture here. Exchanges can play a much bigger role, not other than just being matching. It could be close to somewhere around like banking. Maybe we will have something with some of the large banks in partnership. So I think there's a lot more opportunity for us to catch up on. Short term, definitely expanding into different jurisdictions, expanding into different sort of products on crypto derivatives, and then long term looking into other ancillary services, whether it's banking service or whether it's a capital raise process. There is a lot more that can be done.
Well, obviously, you guys are looking to spread your wings here in the U.S. That's certainly fertile ground from a U.S. trader perspective. So much of our audience comes from the domestic side here, and yet their options, pun intended, are quite limited when it comes to trading out here in the U.S. But speaking of which, one of our listeners here, a frequent listener, Scott Somer, sounds like he's listening live right now. He's excited about what you have to say here, Kapil. He's just retweeting what you guys put out there from CrossTower, that you guys have the lowest fees in the market, fast trading engine, great liquidity, U.S. licensed, and everything else. So it sounds like it's resonating with the audience here, Kapil, because they're getting fired up at what you have to sell. But I'm curious, you mentioned the U.S. license, and that's what Scott's tweeting about here as well. There's a lot of room to improve on that front for a lot of our listeners out here who still have to go out and trade on a Deribit, for example, if they want to do options or things like that. So is that a big focus for you guys, is trying to provide more liquidity and more access to these products here on the domestic front? And if so, obviously that gets into the regulatory side. You know, what are you hearing on that front? Things hopefully going to ease in the near future, make it easier for a lot of our U.S. listeners to trade more crypto products, sir?
Yes, so I think U.S. regulatory environment has been very interesting. I'm really happy and pleased that both SEC, CFTC have taken a positive while cautious approach in embracing this asset class. If you would have asked me 2 years ago, I would have been scared that the entire innovation was going away to other countries who are opening up arms. But I think with the goal to protect individual investors, the commissioners at both SEC and CFTC have taken a very creative approach in listening to industry, understanding what the market demands are while not letting it be a free ride. So love the balance. And that's where we skill between me and my partner, Kristen Bogiano, who's an amazing regulatory expert. We have huge respect for our regulators, and working with regulators with a innovative mindset is how you can grow this industry. Getting, of course, licenses today is still a daunting process. I hope we can simplify some of those processes. But if you know what you're doing, and for someone like me and Kristen who have worked with SEC and CFTC throughout their life, we understand how to sort of respectfully provide them detail. We're excited to go through some of these processes and taking a risk-based approach. I think we have to understand how to make sure that there is no manipulation, there is no price fixing, there is no sort of wash trading or any sort of activities. Is the best way. We have to take the negative news out from crypto and make it a mainstream regulated asset class, and that will bring financial advisors, that will bring large hedge funds, that will bring private office. So credibility is super important. Credibility for the asset class as well as the credibility of people who are trading, who are offering those services is super important in this space.
Well, Kapil, I'm glad you can get this very early glimpse here into what you guys have cooking over there at CrossTower. Of course, you have to keep rolling into the Bitcoin breakdown and everything else, but we like to leave our audience with a little bit of a hint, a little bit of a tease of what they can expect. So why don't you do that, Kapil? Give our audience a little bit of a glimpse into the future there. What can they look forward to coming down the pike from CrossTower in the coming months, sir?
I would encourage audience to really, as you're listening, go to crosstower.com, just click on register button, and then you will see the book right away. The book is live. It's very active. Our market makers are helping us quite a lot. We're very pleased with the depth and the spread on the book. And, of course, as you know, we are acting as we're bringing some disruption, especially around cost. I think the cost for retail is one of the barriers to entry. They are obscenely high, and we are looking to bring those costs dramatically down for our retail investors. So it's funny, we're running a program called Get Paid to Trade, which essentially means if you put a market order, you will get paid, which is new, has never been tried in the crypto world. It's something that the equities and options exchanges have tried, and we're looking for your listener to take advantage of this platform, take advantage of this pricing, and start trading. I think we would love to hear their feedback. Go to our chat box, and then just tell us where we can improve. We want to help retail as well as institutional investors. So we're really excited from what's coming down the pipe.
Yeah, check it out for yourselves, crosstower.com, or give them a follow on the old Twitter. Sounds like a lot of you have already discovered the Twitter. You're retweeting their tweets to us during the show here. It's CrossTower_EX there. Yeah, interesting stuff here with the model of the old taker-maker, kind of a little bit of a play on the old maker-taker we see in the payment structure a lot in the options world, getting paid to execute some orders out there. So it might be intriguing if you're thinking about dipping your toes in the world of crypto. No options yet, but hopefully those coming down the road as well. Well, Kapil, I'm glad we can get you on here to discuss your latest new initiative there in the crypto space, and we look forward to seeing how all these initiatives unfold at CrossTower in the coming months, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me again. I promise I'll be more active. Won't go in the kind of hibernation again.
We get it. Everyone, check it out for yourselves. CrossTower.com and CrossTower_EX on Twitter. Now we have to keep on rolling. It is time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
It's time to explore the latest trading activity, trends, and developments across the world's leading crypto market. It's time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Bitcoin Breakdown, the portion of the show where we do just that. We break down what's going on in the world's leading crypto asset, a.k.a. Bitcoin. And coming into the start of the show, at least, we had a nice little rally, at least from our last show last week. The Bitcoin was up about a little over 180 handles, about 183, was trading right around 95, 94. It's giving some of that back. Maybe me and KAPIL talking there spooked it a little bit. Gave up, looks like about 40-odd handles of that right now. So it's up about 140 net now on the week. So folks perhaps getting a little bit spooked out there. By the way, of course, all these metrics, the data, the vol, the SKEW, all that good stuff coming to you courtesy of our friends over there in SKEW land. SKEW.com is the place to go to kick the tires on all this fun stuff. Let's start off in the realized camp. That's actually, of course, the volatility that's been exhibited in the marketplace since the last time we chatted here. The 30-day, so 1 month realized volatility is down ever so slightly. It's down about 6%. It was 62%. Now it's about 56% coming into showtime. So still frothy, still pretty volatile. That's more volatile than a lot of asset classes out there, but off the highs we've seen of late. 1 year realized, still unched around 88%. That's not surprising. It takes a lot to really change that 1 year frame of reference. It takes a lot of data points over quite a sustained period of time to start moving that number. The 30-day implied, which is the amount of vol that the options are actually pricing in from an overall options pricing perspective, that's down 5%. So very similar to what we're seeing on the realized front. It was 65% last week. It is 60% this week. Worth noting, actually, out here, our friends over there in Genesis as well. Genesis Volatility, they're on the show not too long ago. Check them out. Give them a follow over there on Twitter as well, at Genesis Vol. They put out a great little newsletter and little nuggets throughout the week, which you'll find interesting. They tweeted out not that long before the show that the steep Bitcoin implied vol term structure. So, of course, the term structure is the vol surface, listeners, going all the way out across the expiration months. And if you look at that, they say the short-dated options are pricing in very quiet future, while a longer term, you're seeing a little bit more bid to the vol, which is, again, maybe pricing in a little bit more turbulence down the road. So they say watch out, of course, for your traditional decay of theta, as well as the roll-down effect you get from rolling down that term structure, which is, of course, what we see in a lot of volatility products out there as well when they exhibit this traditional contango-type term structure out here. If you don't know what any of that means, check out some of our shows like Options Bootcamp or some of the early shows about episodes of Volatility Views to break that down in a little bit more perspective out here. Let's get out to the options on the leading platform, at least until CrossTower and some of the others kick in and get more volume going. It's still Deribit out there. Lighter volume this week than last week. 2 weeks ago, we saw a spike to about, actually a little bit more than 2 weeks ago. This was about, beginning of the month, so about 3 weeks ago. We saw a spike to about 169 million worth of notional going up on Deribit. That was on June 2nd. This past week, active, but a little bit lighter volume. The big day was on the 19th with 105 million. Again, this is all notional. That's not 105 million contracts. And then today we saw coming into showtime about 75 million, so a pretty active day out there on Deribit today. The big prints out there, it seems like that 11,000 strike has just kind of captured the imagination as we're threatening to break through 10,000. Everyone's already moving on to the next strike, which is 11,000. We saw big prints on this out on Deribit over the past week, in particular on the 17th. We saw, looks like some rolls from the 11,000 to 15,000 vertical going up. Looks like 1 by 2. 500 of the 11,000 versus 250 of the 15,000. So it could be a bit of a roll there. Those types of ratios, if it's more on the bottom leg, usually means maybe that bottom leg didn't work out too well. But hey, we shall see what's going on. Maybe they were overriding the premium and they got a little spooked when we started threatening that 10,000 handle and beyond. Either way, that was kind of the big print. 11,000 calls are kind of where the action is. Another 500 lot going up on the 16th. By the way, on the 17th, that vertical went up when Bitcoin was 94.03, so still a decent way away from the 10,000 handle. So it would be an interesting time if they were indeed rolling. And on the 16th, we also saw the 11,000 calls printing 500 lots here and there when Bitcoin was about 95.28 as well. So that 11,000 and 15,000, 11,000 other strikes. That's kind of been the trade du jour over the past week. Today, the big print is actually the June 8,000 puts. About nearly 600 have gone up on Deribit so far today, followed by the 11,500 calls, going up about 452 contracts out there. Let's go on out to Bitcoin on CME Bitcoin options, which if you've been listening to the show for the last couple of months, you know that story is starting to change. That worm is turning out there. For a while there, we talked about, CME, the 800-pound gorilla in the derivative space, yet they can't really seem to generate any traction on the options front. Well, not so much. This past week, we saw some pretty big options days, including this last Friday. We saw over 1,000 contracts go up, 1,019 contracts to be precise, last Friday, including a big prints in the June 850, 870 put spread. They went up 400 times. So 800 contracts just in that one vertical. And of course, that's a 5X contract. So you're talking pretty sizable when it comes to the actual notional out there. We also saw the July 11.5, 15,000 vertical going up last Friday as well. So they're interesting stuff. In fact, our friends over there at CrossTower just chiming in a little bit ago saying the Bitcoin options market at CME grew 10X in the past month. Again, that's kind of a sign that this market is seeing an interesting resurgence out there. Let's get to some of the open interest fund before we get to everything else to unpack here. Open interest growing quite a bit out here, and including out there in CME land. Deribit is still north of the 1 billion level. They were at pretty much exactly 1 billion OI for quite a while, and now they're at 1.1 billion. So Deribit continuing to grow OI, and CME continuing to grow OI. OI up to now to 414 million out there at CME land. LedgerX and OKEX. Actually, OKEX moving firmly into third now with 75 million. LedgerX down to 52 million. And BAKKT, of course, still hovering on that 65,000 mark. Someone put on a couple of the trades when these products first listed, and they haven't really touched them ever since. Now, from the net percentage of open interest perspective, again, we're seeing a Deribit slowly losing, ceding some of that share to CME. Deribit down to 68%. CME coming on strong, up to 25%. They were 14% just a few weeks ago. Then they got up to 21%. Now they're up to 25% this week. So CME clawing away at a lot more share out there from an overall options perspective. Where that OI is aggregated, again, it's still June. June sucking down all the oxygen in the room, 114,000 contracts. That's combined across all the venues. Everybody's playing in June. Why that is, you guys have asked us. People just like these quarterly contracts. SEP is starting to grow a little bit. It's about exactly, actually, as of the showtime, about exactly 20,000 contracts open in SEP. So SEP's starting to come on the board. And once June rolls off, which won't be too long from now, on the 26th, then we're going to start seeing some more SEP pile in, I do believe. But right now it is still all June all the time out here. Looking at it from a straight-up call to put perspective out here as well. Let's see. Well, SKEW as well. Getting the SKEW from our friends over there at SKEW.com. It's down a little bit. It was 9.4% on the positive territory this week, 7.6%. So coming in about 2 points over there. The call to put, kind of similar to what it was last week. It was 42%. This week it's up to 45%. So put still in charge, but it's basically a coin flip out there at this point from an overall call to put perspective out there. In terms of where the strikes are active and excited, we talked about the 11,000 strike. That is clearly leading the dance right now with 14,300 contracts open on that strike. That's a clear number one that has eclipsed everything else. Like 7,000 was popular, 10,000 was popular. This one has eclipsed all those now. 7,000 is only down to about 8,300 contracts. The 10,000 strike, which you think might be the volume leader right now, only 12,200. So for whatever reason, 11,000 is where the action is right now. Followed by the 10,000 strike. Then it looks like we've got the 15,000 strike at 11,700. So some of that from those verticals we just talked about out there. Let's go on out to the futures side of the fence. CME futures, kind of a light week, a light day today as well, about 6,300 on the tape out there. The rest of the week was kind of light out there. BAKKT Volume Bot, our old friend, give him a follow at BAKKT Bot on Twitter. He's doing a yeoman's work of parsing not a lot of volume. That continues to be the case out there this week. Total volume, 53 million. Again, this is in their monthly futures. That's down 28%. And the max open interest, 12.3 million. That's down 7%. All right, some changes afoot in the top 10 in the altcoin land. So without further ado, let's head on into the altcoin universe.
It's time to move beyond Bitcoin and find out what's moving the rest of the crypto marketplace. It's time to boldly venture into the altcoin universe.
All right, let's get to it. Top 10 in altcoin land. Remember, take these overall market cap numbers with a grain of salt, but the rankings are, I think, where the meat lies out here. Number one, of course, Bitcoin, 175 billion. Number two, ETH, 27 billion out there. Number three, Tether, like we mentioned before, it has usurped XRP as the number three contract out there with about 9.2 billion worth of market cap. Number four, the aforementioned number three, XRP, 8.3 billion. Number five, Bitcoin Cash, 4.4 billion. Number six, Bitcoin SV, 3.2 billion. Number seven, Litecoin, formerly top fiver, now kind of locked into their number 7 for a while there, $2.8 billion. Number 8, Binance Coin, creeping its way up there, $2.5 billion. Number 9, EOS, $2.4 million. Number 10, you might expect me to say Cardano. Nope, it's Crypto.com coin with 2.1, almost 2.2 billion out there. So fighting and clawing its way into the top 10 as of at least the start of Showtime. We'll see if that persists for long, but yeah, Cardano getting bumped out of the top 10 out there. Let's look at the number 2 overall crypto derivatives marketplace out there, and the number 2 overall crypto product out there, which is, of course, ETH. Had a bit of a decent week, up nearly 15 handles. Coming into Showtime, it was about 244.62. That puts it up 14 3/4 from where it was this time last week. Let's look at the vol out there as well. This data coming also from our friends in SKEW land. 30-day realized down to about 67% from 74%. So a similar story to what we're seeing out there in the Bitcoin vol space. 1 year realized unched at a still frothy 105%. So that's about 20 points north of what we're seeing in the 1 year realized in Bitcoin. So ETH, pretty volatile. 30-day implied down from 70% last show to about 62% of this week. Seeing decent volume coming into the show today. The ADV is still hovering around 10.4 million on the options front over there on Deribit. The largest spike we've seen of late is still back to June 1st of 30 million. Didn't see anything eclipsing that this week, but still saw some interesting prints of late. The 15th, you saw 21 million worth of notional going up. And today, coming into Showtime, was about 12 million on the tape. So it seemed like a pretty active day in store today out there as well. So ETH has been turning it up of late from an overall vol perspective. We're seeing that reflected in the open interest as well. That's up to about 150 million from 144 million last show. Worth noting out there, looks like OKEX starting to creep in on the ETH options open interest as well. Deribit's still the leader with about exactly 150 million worth of open interest, but OKEX creeping in with about 3 million. So starting to claw away some share out there in the ETH options front. Moving on to some of the other big altcoins out there. Ripple, aka XRP, kind of another week where it's effectively slightly unched. It's still shy of that 20 handle out there. So all of you out there waiting for XRP to blow north to 30 or beyond. It's not happening this week, at least. Bitcoin Cash up about 6.5 handles from last show. And Bitcoin SV up about 3.5 handles from last show. Before we wrap up here, I want to get some of you guys on the show. So without further ado, it's time to answer your crypto questions.
You've got questions about crypto. Who doesn't? It's time to find out the answers to your crypto questions.
All right, everybody, welcome to your segment, the Crypto Questions segment. You guys take the reins, your questions, your comments, your insights. You know how to find us at options on most of the major social media platforms, or just find us on the website, or however you listen to these programs, you can send us comments there as well. Don't leave the questions and the reviews on the iTunes and other places, though we don't tend to check those as frequently. There's no shortage of ways for you guys to send in your questions, just like Zelina did here. Zelina wants to know, is there any sort of Bitcoin, quote, VIX yet? Short answer to your question is yes, Zelina. There's a couple of them to choose from. If you listened to this show just a few months ago, we had Simon Ho on from T3 Index, and he was talking about his latest creation, which is the BitVol Index. That's effectively a Bitcoin VIX. If you listen to our Volatility Views show, and that might be a little intimidating for some of you out there new to the options landscape, but if you listen to that program, you'll know that the Spikes product, which is a VIX competitor, is created with that same methodology that he used to create the BitVol Index. So a lot of interesting things, price dragging, and other elements that make it an interesting use case, a little bit similar but a little bit different from VIX out there. So if you're looking for that, T3 Index is the place to go. They disseminate that on a regular basis so you can see where that is trading right now. So that's one place you can go out there. Then, of course, LedgerX did launch, they announced, I should say, what they call their Bitcoin Fear Index. But getting accurate quotes on this now and market data on this is a little bit challenging. I don't know if they're still disseminating this. Maybe SIBO took umbrage at them marketing it as the Bitcoin Fear Index. Either way, I'm not sure if that is still being disseminated. I can't get any recent quotes on that. Maybe I'll have to check in with the folks at LedgerX and see what's up with that. So there were two. Effectively now it seems like there is one. By the way, if you're looking at what the BitVol is right now, BitVol is at a 73.07. So that's down quite a bit. It spiked back in the heady, topsy-turvy days of March. And March 17th, it hit nearly 200, 194.4. It's down pretty much more than 50% from that level right now. You can check it out for yourselves over there. T3index.com, or just search for BitVol Index, BITVOL Index. So if you like a little bit of a vol shorthand in your crypto trading, you want to know what effectively the VIX is telling you for Bitcoin right now, there you go. It's at about a 73 out there. Great question. ZELINA, let's see what we've got here. Mither, let's go with Mither. Mither wants to know, I trade options on equities. Thinking about trading crypto, where do you suggest that I begin? This is a frequent question we get, and unfortunately, there's still not a lot of good answers for you because, as we mentioned, most of the lion's share of the volume is still going up on platforms like Deribit, which you don't say where you're from here, Mither. You could be overseas, but I'm going to guess a lot of you, around 80% of you, are here in the domestic U.S., and that's a challenge. You have to tunnel in with a VPN, and it's not really a good experience that I would recommend for anyone. You don't want to have that sort of Damocles perched over you that you could be shut down at any moment for violating their terms of service out there, especially if you have large accounts you want to trade. So the most liquid venue, Deribit, still kind of inaccessible out there. You can go to, like aforementioned Ledger X. They're coming on a little bit stronger now. They have 50-odd million in open interest. You can kind of go through them out there if you're looking at the options. But a couple of things to keep in mind if you're diving into crypto options for the first time. If you say you trade options on equities, you don't say what you're trading. I'm going to assume you're doing the most popular things, the options on your Apples, your SPYs, your Googles, your Amazon, your Facebook, that sort of thing. Coming into the crypto option is going to be a bit of a different beast. You're not going to get the same liquidity. Obviously, the spreads are going to be wider. And it's just a very different experience. A lot of the brokers out there, the main ones like Coinbase and others, still really don't let you play in the options front. So finding a broker that'll let you do it is the first challenge. I was just trying to squeeze KAPIL over there at CrossTower. It doesn't sound like they're ready for that yet, but that is an area that's prime for disruption here in the U.S. front whenever we get our regulatory act together. They're not going to have the great drop downs where you can go out and do an iron condor or an iron fly, all the things you're used to very easily in a traditional equity option. They're going to take a little bit more doing. It's pretty much more straight up single leg stuff, maybe a vertical, but again, the spreads are wide, so the markets for those verticals and those spreads are going to be pretty wide as well. The thing, unfortunately, we still kind of recommend Mither is until we're seeing more paper out there, and we've been saying for a while, ICE or CME, one of these has to really catch on fire to bring more listed paper that you guys can access here as a U.S. client. And it seems like CME is starting to take off. So maybe, hopefully, they're still not quite there yet. 1,000 contracts in one day is not going to light it up enough to do it. The spreads are still a little wide out there, but it's trending in the right direction. Now, the problem with that is, of course, that's a 5X contract. So that's a very beefy contract. I've talked to CME about, are they planning to maybe list a smaller one, a micro, a 1X at the very least, to make it a little bit easier for retail. So I think what we're going to need to see first is more paper on that CME product, maybe ICE as well, who knows, BAKKT. And then from there, other products start to take shape. 1X coin, for example, maybe a 1/10 eventually, make it a little bit easier for retail to trade that. And then I think more U.S. listed venues will be able to wrap their heads around that because it doesn't have all the regulatory concerns that you have with the Deribit and all the other venues out there. So unfortunately, I tell a lot of people here in the U.S. to still kind of keep your powder dry. There aren't a lot of great choices or options, pun intended, to really do a lot of size options trading in the crypto space right now. Unless you have a decent size account, then of course we had shows with Acuna and the others out there. They'll put that up OTC for you, and Athena and others will do that as well. But that's a pricey, sizable type trade you need to be able to do. If you're looking to do 1 lots and 10 lots, it still unfortunately isn't that favorable of an environment out there. But we're on the cusp of that, Mither. I want to get LedgerX and some of the other domestic venues out here back on the show, I think, to kind of put this question to them a little bit and see what they're doing to really foster more U.S.-oriented crypto options and derivatives paper here, because this still is an area that's lagging behind the rest of the world, unfortunately, Mither. The great question is one we kind of ask ourselves every week, and unfortunately, the answers are still wanting out there, but hopefully, who knows, maybe CrossTower, maybe some of these other venues, maybe CME will continue to light it up. Whatever it takes, somewhere more of this listed lit paper has to succeed, and then from there, I think we'll see a lot more avenues for you guys to trade going forward. All right, listeners, unfortunately, that music means we've come to the end of our epic sojourn through the world of all things crypto and crypto derivatives. I want to thank my old buddy, Mr. KAPIL RATHI, now hanging his hat at CrossTower. Check them out for yourselves, crosstower.com. If you like that idea of getting paid to trade, maybe seem interesting. They don't have the options yet. I forgot your name there, listener, Mither, but you can start with the spot there and test the waters there, maybe get some of those rebates, and then maybe go from there. Again, it's a new venue, so maybe expect some wider markets and things like that as they start to aggregate liquidity, but it might be worth checking out. Then hopefully we'll hold KAPIL's feet to the fire. We'll get some options to trade there as well. Give them a follow over there as well on the old Twitters, CrossTower_EX. And of course, I want to thank all of you out there for downloading, streaming, subscribing, for sending in such great questions. Keep them coming. And we'll see you back here next week for more of the Crypto Rundown.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.